Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Councillor Maggie Wearmouth. I'm the Chair of the Community Services Committee. Thank you to all of you, the members of the public, councillors and officers who are joining us for today's meeting. Please be aware that the Council is video recording this meeting and it will be uploaded to our YouTube channel in due course. I'd just like to highlight some of the key points of the meeting format. So please can I make sure that everybody has their phones switched off or to silent. The fire exits are through the doors out of the chamber and down the external fire escapes or through the main entrance where you enter the building. In the event of a fire, please don't use the lift. The assembly point is outside the Royal Mail Parcel Office in West Street. Please remain seated unless you're invited to speak or need to take a comfort break. And the toilet facilities are out in the corridor through which you entered. Members of the public are invited to participate in the meeting with the key points as follows. Public participation is limited to 4 minutes per person and must be related to an item of business on the agenda. And as Chair, I will interject if this needs to be enforced. When the public... When the public participation agenda item is introduced, please raise your hand to show that you wish to speak, and I will invite you to speak. If you're comfortable standing, please do so that you can ensure that you can be heard across the room. You don't need to state your name when you start speaking if you don't wish to. We will ask you that you clearly state which agenda item you're speaking about. And I would ask that participants looking to leave the meeting wait until the end of an agenda item to limit distraction for other participants. Members of the public looking to leave the building will need to be escorted out by one of our council officers. If the meeting goes into confidential session, a short 2-minute break will be held to allow members of the public to leave. To all present, please remember to show respect to others in the meeting and avoid interrupting where possible to enable others to follow the meeting. If any councillor feels concerned about any aspect of the meeting or discussion, please clearly state point of order and I will then gesture for you to elaborate. If anyone present is felt to be behaving unacceptably, they can be ejected from the meeting by resolution. And thank you for listening. On behalf of the Council, I'd like to thank everybody for attending this Council meeting today. Right, so first on the agenda we have apologies for absence.
Yes, Chair. Good evening, everyone. We have one apology. Councillor Imogen Taylor is unfortunately unwell. Thank you.
So next on the agenda is a disclosure of interests to deal with any disclosure by members of any disclosable pecuniary interests or interests other than pecuniary interests, as defined in the Seaford Town Council Code of Conduct and the Localism Act 2011 in relation to matters on the agenda. Do you have any disclosures for this? Right, item 3, public participation. To deal with any questions or brief representations from members of the public in accordance with relevant legislation and Seaford Town Council policy. Do you have any members of the public who wish to say anything?
Sorry, can I just check, that's not about the agenda items, we wait until the actual agenda item to speak, do we?
No, you speak now.
It is now.
It's not planning.
Okay.
We only do that in planning. In
So-
this meeting, you speak
okay.
now.
So I'll go by who's put their hand up first. So the lady on the front row. Would you like to stand up?
Do you mind
like
if
to
I go?
introduce yourself? You don't have to do either.
Thank you. Are you able to hear me okay?
We are, yes.
Thank you. I'd like to speak in relation to agenda items 10, Bonningstead War, and 14, Bonningstead Beach Hut Owners Meeting. To give some background, my husband and I were one of the first to buy a hut, having been residents of Seaford for over 30 years. When purchasing the hut, we were promised it would be a place of peace and tranquility on the quiet part of the Crom. The reason we bought the hut was due to my many health issues. It was a place we could relax. Taking item 14 first, which was the Beach Hut Owners Meeting, there was a meeting between hut owners and council officers. However, the minutes of that meeting do not cover everything that was discussed and nothing has been resolved. The minutes certainly don't accurately reflect the strength of feeling and the dissatisfaction expressed by owners on the lack of action and treatment by Seaford Town Council. At the time we bought the beach hut, the Town Council promoting their seafront development plan where promises were made that the Boningstead Prom would undergo a big transformation with the introduction of further beach huts, cafe, purpose-built toilets, together with local sea defences to protect the huts. However, it appears that the more ambitious aspects of the seafront development plan have quietly been abandoned. Many hut owners feel they were missold their huts and expressed this feeling very strongly at the meeting. Notwithstanding this, we can see no reason why the Town Council can't improve some aspects of the facilities that have already been provided, however rudimentary. For example, the existing portaloo for the exclusive use of the hut owners is currently installed within a garden shed, provided with a lock for security. This means it's very difficult to access for elderly or disabled people, and the shed enclosure precludes all light to the portaloo, so you can't see when you're in there. Surely there is a possibility this can be improved. Having been told the huts would provide a peaceful and tranquil environment, we can't understand why the Town Council has chosen to group the concessions in such close proximity to the beach huts. We acknowledge that these concessions, such as Skipper Sports, provide a valuable addition to the facilities on the seafront, and we've got no objection to them per se. Skipper Sports have been very successful and have expanded their facilities, and will soon be holding a festival which will include the sale of alcohol. Alongside Skipper Sports, we now have the nomadic sauna. Bearing in mind, one of the characteristics of the prom is its extremely long length, it's not unreasonable to ask that the concessions, which are temporary constructions, are moved further along the prom, enabling the hut owners to enjoy the tranquil setting promised when purchasing their huts. These comments were made at the meeting, but were not taken up. Moving on to item 10, the Gabion Wall, that is supposed to protect the huts from the storms. After many delays, this was eventually built in December 21. Only a few weeks later, in February 22, the wall was severely damaged in the first storm it had to face. It was clearly not fit for purpose. The very next day, we received an email from Seaford Town Council promising swift action. It's now 16 months later, and not only has the wall not been repaired, leaving our huts vulnerable, but we have no promise or firm idea of when or how the wall will be repaired. We were told at the meeting that in fact it can't be discussed with us for legal reasons. Each hut provided the Town Council with an average of £20,000 profit, some of which we were told would fund the Gabion Wall. We don't think it's unreasonable, bearing in mind our investment in the seafront, to expect a sea defence wall that will protect our huts, a toilet that is accessible for all, and the peace and tranquility that we were promised. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want us to be happy to go, should we go one by one, Chair? Would you like to capture everything first?
I think I'd like to capture everything at first, if that's okay. Thank you for that erudite discussion.
Thank you.
Presentation. Thank you. The lady at the back.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Chair. I will say my name's Sylvia Dunn. I'm not sure if you know me. I've got two items, sorry, with glasses, that relate to agenda item 4, and they're very short. The first one is number 6.2, the Westview Beach Huts. The decline in the numbers that are in the report may be small, and there is still time to, obviously, for them to increase. But could this trend continue due to more people going abroad or with the lift of COVID? I'd like to ask, would the Council consider returning to the weekends only bookings for those beach huts? And my second question is relating to number 11, the Martello toilets. Would it be possible for the Council to put regular updates on Facebook to keep residents informed, as there are still many negative comments surrounding the toilets, and it would be just handy for them to know on a regular basis that there is actually movement with these. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard.
Chair.
Thank you. There was someone else, another lady on the back row. Thank you. Would you like to give your name or not?
I'll give my name, it's Liz Russell. Good evening everybody, good evening Chair. We had prepared some quite extensive notes to talk about the proposed use of Chinton Field for parking for the Walk the Chalk event. However, very late on today, we've received news from Councillor Ezra
Sorry,
Cohen.
can you just say which agenda item you're talking
17.5, sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Very late on, we received news from Councillor Ezra Cohen, Green Party, that this proposed use is no longer the case. Are the council aware that that's the latest development?
Thank you. We will discuss that at the agenda item, but yes, we are aware of recent events, yes.
We would also like to know when the memorandum of understanding concerning the risk assessments and traffic management plan will be made public. We would also like to know what the proposed communication plan will be, in particular when will the local residents be updated. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll cover that in item 17. Thank you. Right, is that everything from the public? Any more comments? We'll try and answer as many of those questions as we can at a suitable time in the agenda, if that's okay. Okay? Thank you. Right. So we will move to item 4 on the agenda, which is projects and facilities management update. I'm pleased to introduce our projects and facilities management update manager, Louise Lawrence. We welcome her as a new officer. Over to you, Louise.
Hello everyone. Hello. Nice to see you all. I want to just start by saying my email address is there. If you have things you want to talk about, then obviously speak to the councillors, but we will react as quickly as we can. We've got a new structure, new team, that's in the papers. So do have a look at it, and we've got a new plan of work coming as well. Anything else you want to say?
Do you want to
Yeah,
talk us
so I can introduce the team. I mean, do you want, I was going to wait till...
Briefly go through the report. And
Yes,
then
can you
take
go
up
through your report?
Yeah, sure. So we've got the team, some of the team here. Julie, Zoe, Sharon, who's taking the minutes, that's why she's writing all the time, and myself. We are going to, for the next report, produce a forward plan of work that's coming. That'll be attached to the agenda, and we'll also be looking at all the projects and where they are. So just to touch on a couple of the questions you've had here, that I'm hoping that when that report comes through, that will help you be able to look at it anytime you like and see what the update is.
You know when this report was looking at forward plan, will that include all the contracts?
All the contracts that we have in terms of grounds maintenance and...
Yeah, just all the contracts that we have.
I hadn't thought about putting those in, but we can do if that's something you find helpful.
It says because you can't often find the information relating to that, so it'd be useful to have a list of all the contracts, their end dates, their values, and then when they're due to be tendered. For forward planning, what is the tender release date going to be? Is that something you could do?
Yeah, I think that's something we can put together, definitely.
And just to say, Councillor Duval, already planned for the July full council, which has been on the list of information we've sent out for council's full plan, is we will be doing a schedule of contracts and leases at that meeting. And that provides some of the information you're asking for, but yeah, we'll make sure we'll get you in the community service report as well.
Will that go on the website for the public as well?
Well, information that can be shared publicly will be shared publicly. I mean, some aspects of contracts and leases are commercially confidential, so they wouldn't be shared. But obviously we always share what we can. So, Louise, were you going to say anything else about any of the projects there?
Do you
Do you want to talk us through? Yes, because you've asked us to discuss the draft statement
So
as well.
if we look through these, this is an update of where we are with all the project and the work we're doing. The area to look at is the Christmas Magic, which is item number 2. We are making the suggestion that we have a mission statement, and that will help us to make sure that the Christmas Magic event is supported by everyone involved, with a mission statement saying that we're looking at making it affordable, making it sustainable, making it family friendly, and that helps us to underpin decisions we make around which stalls can be there, what type of food we're selling, making sure we cater to family groups, and that will, I think, help to just open up that offer, but also keep it in line with what you might expect a Christmas Magic event to be. And at the moment, without a mission statement, it's very much our officers' interpretation, and I'd much rather it was you as councillors and the public who had that drive on what we're going to do.
It's reasonable. Okay, any questions or comments on item 3 or 4? Councillor Hundley.
Referring back to the Christmas Magic, do you want comments now as we go? Is that what you want?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Okay, right, so Christmas Magic and Secret Christmas Magic, is that registered, have you registered the term? Because I knew we had a previous young mayor who registered the Summer Magic event at one stage, and then no one else would use it. So I just wondered if that was actually part of the consideration now, if it's been done. Because, and I think previously the event was more of a committee, and then there was quite a lot of outsiders on it, and I'm not quite sure who was on the helm with that. So I don't know, in recent years it may have changed. That's maybe something for the other to look into that. What is it really? Is that trading name? Was it really a Seaford Town Council event? So that's just something to think about. I don't expect an answer for that. The slogan, I prefer you substitute fund with fun of activities. I think it gives it a bit more of a, it's as though there's going to be something there for you to do as opposed to it all be fun and joy. But it should be, but I think maybe you should include the term activities in that particular slogan. And that's just, I'm only thinking out loud, so other councillors may have comments about what you may want to include in that. Right, that's my comments for now, Chair.
I've got a step over that I've written out, I've just drafted it because I thought it was a bit duplicate in there. It doesn't say the word sustainability in it currently. You haven't included residents. So I've just written something down for you to think about if you want me to pass that to you.
Yeah.
Yes,
Those comments
please do.
away, that's very helpful.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank
Fine.
you.
Okay. Any comments on item? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to comment on this. I think that it's really great that we're considering this now. I know it takes a lot of organisation, this event, and I really enjoyed going to it last year. I believe, we've got events policies and so on. If we're talking about sustainability, we're going to have more of that theme coming forward with the Climate Change Committee and so on. So maybe we need to kind of link that in with the event and sort of be mindful of how other things develop. And the other thing that I was going to mention on that is going forward, I remember before I was a councillor and I was coming to the meetings and I picked up that the reports were going to have not just a financial consideration but also environmental considerations. I don't know when that's going to come in, but...
Yeah, sorry, Councillor Bruce, that's an absolutely fair question. That is something that is to be developed by the Climate Change Subcommittee.
Yeah.
And that's in the plan, that's in the subcommittee's plan
Great.
to do over these months, so we'll have it in as soon as we can.
That's great. So yeah, just sort of trying to bring those things together really.
Yeah, definitely.
And I was thinking maybe the word celebration in there, celebration of not just Christmas, but sort of the community coming together and, whether that's the people attending, the businesses, the community groups, all that kind of thing. Regardless of whatever religion or not people follow.
Good point, yeah. We will gather those suggestions together and Louise and I will come up with hopefully a more acceptable version and we will circulate it. Thank you for your input, yes.
Can I just very quick comment, Chair? I'd hate the word Christmas disappearing, though.
Yes, Councillor Hanson. Please carry on.
You know what I mean? I know some councils across the country call it Winter Festival, for example. I think that, which is fine, but I still think it's always been known as Christmas making, so I think it'd be a shame to totally discount that. But I mean, obviously, you can include the word with the festival within the statement if that also gave it a bit more of an inclusive idea. It's not purely Christian, no, it's not at all.
Councillor Luke.
Thank you, Chair. Coming on to the sustainability aspect, I'm glad you mentioned sustainability because it wasn't in the little paragraph.
It's not, I have to give it to Councillor Weir-Mallow who said to me, why isn't it in there? So
yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I'm just going to come furthering on from that. We've had issues, we talked about the bonfire society at the Seaford Bonfire Parade, where we've had a lot of issues with people bringing in trolleys with loads of plastic, single-use plastic and rubbish, really rubbish, on peddlers' licences. And I think it would be good to tie these two events, which we have in the autumn, together to try and make a kind of a concerted effort that it's a kind of joined up approach to how we deal with street festivals to do with plastic that gets sold often by vendors who are nothing to do with Seaford. That's the other very particular point, is that they capitalise on the fact that they have a licence which is given by the police from somewhere else completely. The police have no objection to giving it, they have to give it, but then it's not enforced when they actually come here. I don't think it's actually happened at Christmas Magic, I don't believe it has, that we've had peddlers, but it certainly happens at the Bonfire Society. We do have a concerted effort, as we know, for various members of previous administration. We're trying to push forward on this idea that we don't want that kind of sale in Seaford. We want our traders, our in-town traders, to be able to benefit from this, more than outsiders coming and selling tat. So I don't know if we can get a holistic approach to how we deal with that.
Thank you. And just to say that both the organisers of the bonfire event, the Bonfire Society, and ourselves are equally horrified by the amount of single-use plastic that's sold around the bonfire event. And the organisers and ourselves are doing all we can to minimise that, and those efforts will continue. Sharon will continue to work with Lewis and others to see what can be done. The constraint upon us is simply the legislation around peddler's licence is essentially quite liberal, and its enforcement is not really within our gift to enforce. So that's why it is so challenging. But the Bonfire Society are just the same as us. They'd like that to stop if it could be stopped. So we will do all we can to minimise that. But the other point you make are all noted in terms of how we tie things together as we go forward. I know Louise, you all want to do that, so it's absolutely up the street sort of stuff.
Okay. Thank you for that. Item 3.
I'm a bit confused with the items because we've got the report with so many items, Councillor Weir-Mallow, but I would like to make a few general comments on the report at the appropriate moment, if you could let me know what that is.
Sorry, which one are we talking about? We are talking about the community services. This is agenda item 4, and we're going down through the points in the report. So which one would you like, which are you talking about?
There are several in 3 main themes, maybe I'll wait to the end.
If you like to,
Yeah,
yes, that's fine. Any comments about Salt Play Park? Councillor Dubois?
Yes. What defines the toddler play area in your device, please?
I didn't hear that.
What defines the toddler area in your device? The reason I ask is, I'm a regular user of that play area, and I take my granddaughter every week. When we were there this week, there were lots of teenagers from Seaford Head, I'm guessing 13-ish years old, and they'd taken swings and swung them over the bar so the little ones couldn't use it, so I had to unravel them all. And the reason we were in the big area swings is because this group of teenagers were in what I think you're defining as the toddler area. And eventually she wanted to go, and she likes to go on that disabled swing. So I thought, well, they've had 3/4 of an hour, that's long enough. So I went to ask them to kindly leave the area so that my granddaughter, who's 5, could use the swing. So there was a big hoo-ha. There was nothing around for me to say, look, you're above that age group. So I didn't really feel that I had any authority to ask them to leave, even though I did. So I asked them to leave, and the boy in
in the baby swing said he couldn't because he'd been stuck there for an hour and he was waiting for the fire brigade to release him. So, of course, it wasn't the best of things, and of course everybody's laughing and finding it funny. But, you know, at the end of the day, the firemen did manage, after a good half an hour, to release the boy. So I just thought there needs to be something there to say, don't use this area, or is there anything officers can think of that could be done? I'm not sure. And it's not just a one-off, it is a regular occurrence that they're there. I see them quite often.
What we can do is have a look at what the signage is like there. We're also looking very much at maybe thinking about some sort of strategy around the parks area, which we would ask for public involvement in, and have a look at that as part of that, addressing usage of the spaces.
Yeah. I kind of with that. Yeah. Councillor Henry.
Thank you. Just following on what was just been said there, can you not involve the school? But obviously, if you can identify it's for Seaford Head School, you can basically take pictures and say, and just go up to school, and then you'll get them involved, and then that will basically probably nip the bud at that stage.
I did think about taking a picture,
Yeah.
but I did think it was inappropriate taking pictures of children, so I didn't. But lots of the children were taking pictures.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm sure that one of the teachers will now be aware of that particular boy.
Yeah, well, it'll go on some social network at some stage.
I mean, if you think it has any merit, I'm happy to ring the school up.
Well, probably needs to be done a little bit more formally, possibly. So I don't know what you think, Councillor Allen, but
I think it might be
Yeah.
better, more appropriate from an officer rather than a
Yeah.
The
councillor,
councillor,
I
yeah.
think. I'll leave that for you to work out, but
Okay.
I think that would be more appropriate, really.
thank you.
Okay, so, item 4, quick windows. Bin replacement, item 5, section 5.
Sorry,
do that again.
I mean, obviously, because I live near the salts and the beach, one of the problems that I witness on a daily basis is the inadequate bins. And I know you've refurbished the bins all very nicely, but that still doesn't address the issue of the bins being inadequate. Do officers have any plans to increase the bins for the summer, change them into wheelie bins, or anything to address the litter problems, please?
We are talking about an earlier litter collection to try and deal with the fact that it's building up and building up. I think that's something we can take away and have a look at.
Yeah, I would add my comment as well, that after hot, popular weekends, where many people are non-resident, they're coming down, they're having their picnics, their disposal barbecues, etc. And they, on a Monday morning or a Tuesday morning after a bank holiday, around the litter bins is just seagull heaven. And it is a big problem for this particular time of the year for 3 or 4 months when the weather's good. So I think perhaps we need to look at something different on a basis to help with the local residents. Councillor Lee.
Thank you. In the last administration, Councillor Dunn, as she was then, answered me on a particular question about the bins. I was asking about recycling on the seafront, which apparently had been tried quite a long time ago, and it couldn't be continued because the recycling always got adulterated by people chucking anything in. People aren't very conscientious about what they do. Another question we had was, why don't they put bigger bins in? Because we've got more waste than those capacity of those bins. Well, as Councillor Dunn pointed out, it had been tried, but you've got even more waste. What we need to do is educate people that when they come to the beach, where they bring hampers and practically trolleys of stuff to the beach, that they take the stuff that they're not using away with them. They're quite happy to carry it there, they're not happy to carry it away. And this is ridiculous. In the old days, people always used to take their litter away, well, generally. But it's now, as you said, quite rightly pointed out, people come from out of town now, which is great, except that they don't use the town, they just use the beach. But we must have an education strategy somehow. And I was wondering whether we could have signage which an organisation like Skip could perhaps work with kids to create kids signs saying please don't litter our beaches, because kids have much more of an effect. People look at it and go, oh, and it actually gets to them more if a kid has said please don't litter my beach or something like that, you know.
I think they've got them.
Yeah,
There are children.
it's been done.
There are children.
It's been done.
Yes.
Tried and
I
tested.
don't think signage works. I mean, I confront them on a regular basis. You get lots of young people bringing in crates of beer and they don't care. And when I say, please take your bottles away, there are children coming on the beach. Oh, it's not my bottle. Well, it is, I've just seen you. They ignore the signs, they ignore the people.
So without enforcement officers, I can't
what do you think we
see.
should do, Councillor Gibbon? What thoughts do you have about that?
Put some wheelie bins in.
But in terms of the points that Councillor Meek's making about the fact that if you just put more rubbish bins in, you send up more rubbish in them, so those it doesn't change, that's not changing anybody's behaviours really?
We've got to do, we can't keep things as they are. I'm not saying I have the
No,
answers.
of course not.
I've got the problems.
Yeah.
But, collectively, perhaps people can come up with some ideas, but I don't think science works. People who put things in bins would generally take it home. Those that leave bottles on the beach don't give a damn about the bins or the signs.
Okay.
Let's
We
take
have
that away.
an officer who's been patiently putting her hand up.
Yes.
You have a comment?
So Zoe,
Zoe, yes.
So I worked on the bins project, so I just wanted to verify what Councillor Meek was saying, and I also want to say I completely understand Councillor Dubin. So with the bins themselves, I had spoken to Lewes District Council about the bins, to really research the best bins for the seafront. And there, I can split it into three. So one of the, and which are the questions that have been raised. So the first was the amount, the size of the bins. So I had sort of looked into larger bins, and the waste team had said that because they actually pick the bins up by hand, they don't have a machine to pick the bins up, they can only physically pick up a certain amount of bin, and that is it's a bin bag sack at a time. So the current bins are 224 litres, and that's split into two, so you've got 112 litre for each bin. So that's the amount that they can actually physically pick up. So anything bigger than that isn't possible because they don't have the actual power, the transport or the machinery to be able to pick up anything larger than that. So that's one point. I also had spoken to them about the number of bins, and they said that, I don't know whether it had been tried, but they did say that no matter how many bins you have, they will be filled up and the problem will not be resolved. The third is about education as well, so about signage. So we did, until recently, have small signs on a number of bins, A4 signs about take your litter home. That actually wasn't as effective as A3 signs, so we are now looking at introducing A3 signs with pictures of overfilled bins and that the waste team did say really did significantly reduce the amount of rubbish that was left. So those are the 3 points I think that were verified as well by Lewes District Council who collect the waste. But I completely understand what you said as well. Councillor.
Councillor, did you have a comment? No. Right. But they do look very good, so thank you very much. Okay.
I think, Chair, so there's clearly some very important points in that conversation that will be taken away, so thank you for the points you made. I know to carefully take them away and come back to Council. Thank you.
So, section 6.4 about the use of the Westview beach huts that Mrs Dunn had commented on about the usage. the officers have any comments
Yeah,
about the numbers?
I mean, I would just say, Sylvia, that's a fair question. As you can see, I mean, last year's figures actually show you why the weekly booking arrangement was done. Because basically, the weekly bookings they were pretty much full all the time. So we did that as a trial to see whether just weekly was sufficient. And honestly, last year it was.
Yeah.
But obviously, if we find that the bookings are starting to drop, we will obviously have to see what alternatives are. So we'll review it at the end of the season and see what we think is sensible to go into.
Thank you.
Thank you. Section 7, the Waterfield Station, any comments? Councillor Honeyman.
Thanks again, Councillor Wilmouth. 7.4, I'm interested in that when you talk about the perfect pit stop. So if there was an event on there, you wouldn't want people just to wander in and just get some water. I just wondered, that was my sort of comment on it. If it's basically empty as it is a lot of the time, no event on, again, you don't mind this so much. I just don't know if that's makes it as clear as it could be. That's all I was going to say.
Yeah, that's noted. I mean, again, that's fair. I mean, hopefully, the public will see the fields full of an event. I won't go and fill my bottle up, but you know, in terms
well, it might
of,
be a bit more tricky anyway if it's fenced off, fenced down with it.
Yeah,
what the event is.
Yeah, exactly.
That's just something I noticed myself. That's all. Okay. Thank you.
But just say we're very excited to have it in there.
Yeah,
It's a fantastic thing.
I've already seen
It's a
people using it
fantastic
for
thing.
humans and for dogs. So
Yeah, it's a fantastic thing, and definitely needed there because we've had events there.
Especially that.
Yeah, in the summer events now we'll have.
I'm not complaining about it. It was just.
I know you won't. No, I'm just saying it's great to have.
Right, moving on. Litter picking station, item 8. Any comments? Seems fairly straightforward and very welcome. Item 9, CCTV. Do you have any comments on that?
Just to say what it says in the report, Louise, isn't it? Is that we're hard at work. So basically, more information about CCTV will come to future meetings. We're looking at the Sussex Police arrangement for the fixed cameras. The police have advised us that arrangement needs to change in spring 24. So Louise and team are working with having necessary conversations, and a report will come to council about that. And at the same time, it's a perfect opportunity to review the rest of the CCTV that we have ourselves and how well that's going and any other change we want to make. So Louise and team working hard on the report that will come to council to consider CCTV options going forward. So we highlighted this for a reason because there is stuff to come on CCTV. Forest of Hands, what did I say? Wow.
Councillor Walraven.
CCTV cameras has always been my bone of contention because of the costing.
Yeah.
Will this new scheme be more effective? Because people can see the cameras turning around, so it's pointing that way. 100%. Right, we get up to Mischief this side. And is it going to be a lot more expensive?
This will all be within. This has all been looked into. Will all be within the report. I mean, as I say, it's clear. I mean, there's an opportunity here to pick up some of the points you made because I think they're all absolutely fair points. Clearly, costs are very relevant as well. So we're making sure that the costings are there for everybody to see and the options that we'll be bringing forward. But more work needs to be done before we can come to council. So that looks like we're trading it now, and we'll come back with more information on the effect.
Thank you.
Councillor Taylor, did you have a comment?
Well, the first one's been covered, brilliant. The second one is I'm just wondering whether that's okay. I'm just wondering whether at the same time the council will be reviewing policy for any other CCTV on its land as well, or whether this will just focus on the sort of municipal CCTV, as it were.
We're going to do a complete review of the cameras, where they're sited, what it's costing us. The full report is coming to the July full council, so if any public want to come and hear about that, then do come. And we're looking at the costing and our options. So all of that will be there available for you to see, and also about, do we need more? Do we need less? That the whole of and actually who's looking at it?
Yeah.
Because this is the other thing that we're starting to wonder. It's a great idea, but actually There's all sorts of GDPR issues around access to that data anyway, so we need to consider all of those areas.
So that's reassuring to me.
Can you put a different cost centre in for the separate police CCTV contribution and the council's contracted CCTV cost, please?
Can we do that?
Yes.
We'll make sure, you're right, Constable, we'll make sure it's absolutely clear what's what in terms of the finance of that. Because, yeah, that's one of the things we found is we've got two systems, two cost bases, blah, blah, blah. So you're right, we need to untangle that.
Okay. I think I'll suggest that we take 10 and 14 together, since they've been raised by the member of the public in that way. Who would like to comment on the progress being made about this in the discussion with the owners? Thank you.
Yeah, we had a very long statement as well, which I'll wrap into the replies. So the Bonstead Wall, there was a meeting with hut owners, which Sharon and Adam attended. One of the things you were talking about with the wall is a change to the top of the wall to make it so people couldn't sit on it. So we're having a redesign of that. It's not expensive, it's just a tweak. So that's delayed us. What I'm thinking would be maybe the best way forward is to get you to nominate of the group of hut owners, 2 or 3 people to come forward. We'll meet up, show you the plans. We haven't got them yet. You have a look at them and also start a conversation. If we move on to the beach hut, start a conversation around the points you've asked for. One of the things that is coming is a gate so that we can actually protect that area. And we're putting in a wooden gate initially with a view to looking at what we're going to need in the long term. So again, you can have a look at that. And talking about the toilets and the structures, all of that, if you are able to get, 2, 3, 4 people to...
There's several of us here at the moment. I was the only one who spoke.
Oh, okay, so who are the beach hut owners? Can I just see who we've got?
The 4 of us
the
here.
4 of
Great.
you. Okay,
And
great.
there will be more in July
Okay, so...
for your meeting.
Okay, can I just sort of say that we're not supposed to be having a discussion, we're having a briefing, yes, thank you.
So, I'll write to you, offer the opportunity to meet up with some nominated representatives. We'll take it forward step by step, look at all the points you've raised, move forward through it, if that works for you.
Thank you.
Okay, I hope that's helped.
Thank you.
Right, Martello toilet.
Yeah, sorry, I have a comment on that one. Yeah, thank you very much for this overview report and for that bit of information there. As a new councillor coming in, even though I've been in Seaford a while, admittedly not when the beach huts went up, I don't think, it would be quite useful to have a bit more information around the sort of the background of the huts and the wall and so on and so forth. Just so that we can consider things a bit more fully. And I'm sure that you're going to put a lot of things into the report for the July meeting, is it going to be? But could you maybe outline what's going to go in there? And part of the reason I'm asking is because I went for a walk last night and had a look at the wall. And some of you may know that I've got a background in marine engineering and so on, and had quite a lot to do with Gabion structures. Interesting stuff when I lived in Scotland. And admittedly at sea, but also the surf zone. And I'd be quite keen to just, maybe bounce a few things off if there's anything that can be helped with. With that, sort of looking at design briefs and data and that sort of stuff. Not that I'm an expert and have all the answers, but they can be very tricky structures. But be good to know sort of what you're planning to put into that report and
Should we set up a meeting?
That would be grand, yeah.
Talents and experience of our councillors never fails to raise me. Right, is that everything for Bonstead? Yes? Okay, thank you. Martello toilets. Can I ask you, Town Clerk?
There was a question from Sylvia Dunn. The answer to her question is yes. Okay, we are doing more regular updates, but we've agreed now.
So the website's about to be updated with information which will also go into the July report. We have, I'm going to go with it, spring build.
Okay.
So, yeah, you heard it first here.
All right.
I know it's been a long time.
Which spring?
Okay, after Christmas, we're going for, we want to do the work where it's going to disturb people the least amount in terms of summer access. And we're expecting tenders to go out, be assessed by the councillors and built by spring.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, lovely, thank you.
Which committee will the tenders go to? Was it this one or
That will be full council.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, all right, so have we finished that item, everyone? Have we extinguished it? Okay, thank you. For now, that'll do, fine for me. Thank you. Right, finally, again, Martello toilets. We finished with that one,
Yeah,
yes?
we've done that
Okay.
one. South Hill Barn.
South Hill Barn, no.
12.2, it's saying that further work is required to the flat roof on the west barn prior to events taking place. Does that include things which are planned like Walk the Chalk, and what's the sort of timescale on that?
Do you want me to go on this?
Yes.
So yes, it does include Walk the Chalk, and the structure will be something temporary at the moment, just to support any movement, so those events can still go ahead. We've got 4 booked, end of July through to the end of September.
Okay.
Cool, thank you.
Right, next item, Martello Tower, any comments, updates? No? We've done 14, filming and photography. No? Concessions, we've already covered a little bit. Any update on that? I'm very excited. Councillor Duba?
May I ask a question on the concessions? One of the members of the public noted that there was the sale of alcohol from the Skipper's Hut. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Was it a festival they were planning?
They are applying, my understanding, Sharon, is that they're applying for an alcohol licence for a one-day event, to do it for one day only, just once. So that's our understanding too. It's not a general licence or anything like that. Don't worry, that wouldn't go through, and that would come for serious specific action. That's a very important question.
Sorry, just to confirm, that would be working with us officers to make sure that that was all under an event management process that's been agreed with council and Skipper Watersports.
Yeah.
Councillor Mead?
Can I just have a point of confirmation? I thought, my recollection was that it was a 2-day event and they were going to have a licence for the whole weekend. Is that not correct, Sharon?
No, so they will only be going for 1 day, but they are covering 2 in case there's any problems with the weather.
That's what it's very well for doing the next day.
So they just wanted to make sure. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Councillor Bristow,
I just have a quick point about 16.3, the bike hire. I think that's fantastic that we might have more opportunities for people to get active and pursue active travel. That's brilliant. It just came to my attention in the last few days that there is a section of seafront under the Bonningstedt Parade, Promenade Parade, that is a no cycling, and I've been in touch with officers about improving the signage for that. But I just wonder a little bit about, managing traffic flow along the prom, and that should be included when this is considered.
I think that's a really good point, and at the moment that's just an approach. It's not got any further than we're thinking about it from the people who've approached us. But I think it's an excellent point, and we would definitely look at that. And thinking about the signage and your photos, which were excellent, thank you. We might need to do a bit more.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. So, just for myself, as a recently retired doctor, spending an awful lot of time trying to persuade people to take more exercise, actually encouraging the fun of cycling along the promenade is a great way of putting this into action. So anything that we can do to promote active transport, whether it's for fun or whether it's commuting, I often go to New Haven when the weather's good. So I think anything that we can do to actually show people that it's fun to get around without fossil fuels, I think is to be strongly supported. So I think this is a very much the direction of travel that we want to physically and metaphorically pursue. Thank you. Right. Councillor Hannon.
Thank you, Chair, again. What number are we on, by the way? I'm 16.
Well, we're on 16.
You're so like, I'm on 16 as well. If it's safe to take of argument, ultimately there are more beach huts put along where the concessions are. I mean, it could be. I mean, that was the original plan, which obviously Councillor Bristow did actually mention. And if you go back to the history of it, it was going to be so many. There was going to be some along that side of the other, you know, where the current concessions are now. You know, with the where the bike's going to be going and the current sauna and the new cafe, isn't it? I mean, would you try to basically give an alternative locations, or is that for discussion for another day? Because
I think that's a discussion for another day. As Louise correctly indicated, but also obviously in terms of history as well. The councillors, as you know, will be working together over the summer on a new strategic plan for the council. And one of the many steps on that journey that we'll be going on is the historic plans of the council, what's been done, what hasn't, how we're taking it forward. There's a SALT development plan, a lot of which has been done, but not all of it. There's a seafront development plan, a lot of which has been done, but not all of it. So the strategic planning process will include looking at those matters and seeing how we want to move forward, given that those original plans are now obviously set quite, basically I would say old, you know. Well, they adopted 6 years ago, but written 10 years ago.
Yeah, written, yeah.
And obviously a lot's happened in the world in the last 8, 9 or 10 years. So the council, the responsible council, of course, the council will want to consider how they want to move those areas forward. As Louise has already indicated, we'll work together with councillors around not only an overarching plan, but then working on more particular plans for geographic thematic areas. That's obviously not going to happen overnight, but that's what we can take forward working together, and then these sorts of things will form part of that process, Councillor. That was a long answer, but I hope it made sense.
That's fine. Can I just? That's a very good reply, Councillor. Absolutely brilliant. And that, what it was honestly, can I just do a couple more comments on what's written down here?
Quickly, we're getting aware of time.
You're going to have saunas in the middle of the winter, is that the plan? I mean, I just noticed that. I don't know when you say throughout the year, if they got it for that, it doesn't really say they're going to turn up, does it? Because it's on a mobile one, is it?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. So, in a free to cold sea, out you come for a sauna, that'd be great, wouldn't it? Yeah. But you can do it, it warms you up, doesn't it? If you're in the cold sauna. The other comment about such a bike car, does that include second-hand sales as well? I mean, I think that's a good idea if it does, or is it just hire?
Just hire. I think we'll move on from that. Thank you, Councillor Hannon. Right, events. Can we really focus on the walk the chalk, if possible? Because I think that, obviously, from a public point of view, is the main issue, and we've covered Christmas Magic, and one of the events has already taken place. So, can we just briefly update councillors and attendees please on the walk the chalk?
Sharon.
Yeah. Okay, so Seaford Town Council has been involved with stakeholders for Walk the Chalk, and the latest thing that we've been discussing is the field for the park taking in Chinton Way, and the letters come out today to let us know that it isn't a viable parking area. And we have been looking at other options, which include our Martella Fields, and we're going back to talk to the fund as a group to see whether there are any other options there. But at the moment they are discussions. We don't know what's available, and they will, need to look at different transport options, which is what they put in the letter here, with free buses from train stations, from New Haven, I think they've put in the letter as well. I mean, is it just the transport you wanted to talk about? Because that was the question and the parking.
Yeah, there's a question about the risk assessment and traffic, and there's about the updates, and you're saying that those are going to be hand delivered. We understand.
So have you received sight of this letter, or was that just through a councillor that you've received the letter? Because we've only had this afternoon.
No, I think
I got an email about it, this literally about an hour before this meeting.
Okay, so it's around the same time as us.
Yes.
So yeah, I think there's more work to be done with the stakeholders around the traffic management plan because they haven't finalised some of these points of what's happening.
Yeah, we've had no information on it at all.
Okay.
Just
can I just say we're not supposed to be having this full discussion here. We're having a briefing, but I would just reiterate that we as new councillors have been told about this, that the town council are involved as landowners, so as stakeholders in the fact that they own the land for around South Hill Barn, but they are not the organisers. This matter was discussed in detail at the town council meeting, the full meeting in January. There are partnership meetings, I gather, regularly, so that there is knowledge of what is going on, and this is the very most recent update that we've had today, and I'm very pleased that you've heard about it. It sounds like very much the same time we were told about it. And the idea is that a full briefing is going to come back, and we have asked the organisers to come back in person to actually have a full two-way discussion at a full meeting on the 20th of July. So we are not organising this, we are trying to represent and act as go-betweens, if you like, with residents such as yourselves to point out the issues. And there are quite some big issues about fire, about toilets, about the numbers of people, how golfers are going to be and other visitors are going to be used. So there are a lot of different aspects of this that we as representing the residents of Seaford have to make to the organisers, and we're trying to do that as best we can, but obviously we need the information and we need to be kept up to date about what their plans are. And I've had a look at their website, and I think their website is probably out of date as well, because there are various things there that aren't in accord with what we're aware of now. So I think all I can say is watch this space. We are doing our very best to represent and ask the questions, but our formal review cannot happen until the 20th of July. Is that correct, Town Clerk? Yeah. So we're acting as sort of stakeholders, but not organisers, if that makes sense.
Thank you. You said a meeting, is there
no, the formal
meeting?
Town Council meeting will be on the 20th of July. Can you give us...
It mirrors what we did in January as council. I mean, I thought that was a very clear and excellent summary, Chair. Thank you. It summed up perfectly.
Thank you.
So in January, the organisers came to a public full council meeting, and there was a long discussion there. And again, without getting too nerdy and technical about it, but if you look at the minutes of the January meeting, the councillors as landowners very clearly set some conditions for the organisers to meet. And the July meeting is when the council will review those conditions and progress against them, and therefore we're inviting the organisers to come to that meeting to talk to us, to have that conversation. So we set a very clear process about doing our best to manage the concerns around this event right from the beginning, and then the next stage of it for us is this July meeting where we'll invite organisations to come, but the councillors will be going through the conditions that were set and reviewing progress against them. And that's on the public meeting sheet on exactly what to. Okay.
Sorry, we can't take any more questions. Okay. From the public, sorry, I'm taking questions from the councillors now. Yeah.
Thank you. Just to say, I mean, the 20th of July is only 2 months before the actual event, which is, in event terms, is very close to the event. And if there were to be, sorry,
I don't disagree, Councillor.
No, so I'm just saying it ought to be the case that anything substantial they were considering should be flagged up to the council well in advance of that. As we go along, as the chair has just said, as we go along, it ought to be. Yeah. And I hope they are. But I suppose I'm saying is, I hope they are in regular communication with you in order to flag up anything of import. Because for them, if they suddenly have to change quite a big deal at 2 months' notice, that could wipe the whole thing out.
I mean, that's an absolutely fair question. One of the conditions that we insisted upon was that they set up monthly stakeholder meetings. That was our push. And the great news is those meetings are happening, and Sharon and other officers attend those. As Louise has explained, with our landowner hats on, to do our best to get the best possible outcome for the town from this festival happening. So there is ongoing things we do through those monthly meetings, but the formal process was set for July. again, one of the challenges is definitely that in January it was challenging because of the fact there were unknowns. That's why the list had but they couldn't do a traffic management plan in January. It was too far away. But we have to have a satisfactory one before the event. So that's how we've kind of got to where we are. But officers are attending those monthly stakeholder meetings and doing their best to do all they can to steer this in the best possible direction, while as Councillor Williams explained, being landowners, not organisers of the event, so we're just doing what we can.
Was there a query over here?
It's just for information for the public that the full council will not be here.
Yeah.
It will be at larger premises, so there can be more representation from the public.
Yeah, we'll be having a large ring for that, so we'll let you know where it is.
Are there any councillors attending the stakeholder meeting or residents?
The stakeholder meeting is for the organisations who are all involved with the event. So that's quite a long list of community organisations, members of that, but it includes Natural England, Lewis District Council, Sussex Wildlife Trust, Seaford Head Local Nature Reserve Management Committee, Natural History Society, us. There might be others, Sharon, but there's quite a lot of
Coast Path.
There we go, thank you.
There's lots of ecologists and
Yeah.
different people that we've pulled in from
Yeah.
different areas because we've
So,
all
yeah.
raised.
Yeah,
things
lots
like
of people have been
But no
raising
residents.
concerns about it. Well, that's because many of the community organisations are working with and representing local residents in their work. So the resident voice is not being excluded, and as we've discussed, as Sharon and Louise have identified, we have been encouraging the organisers to do all they can to liaise with and involve local residents as much as they can. So we're doing all we can to try and help them to make sure they're liaising with residents as they should.
Thank you. Moving on. Right. Item 18, forward planning. Any comments about that?
Yeah, that's
Louise.
Yeah, that's me. Just to say, lots of the questions that we're getting here is about what's happening, when is it happening. So in this report I've just summarised, we will have a project plan with risk against it. So you've got a good understanding of when things are happening or whether they are red, orange or green. Really simple system. And that will be attached to the report, the next report. But I want you as councillors to feel that you can at any time just ask us about it. It will be available and we can email it out whenever you want. If we're updating it monthly. The forward plan will be looking at forward work, and we've got a strategy meeting coming up, which I'm personally very excited about. We've met as a team to look at sort of ideas that we think might want to be added into that strategy to be thought about, and that as well will come onto this list. So a lot more thought about where we're going, what we want to do. That's not to say at the moment we are heavily loaded with projects that we're in the midst of or we're unpicking or looking at. So we are really busy, but what I'd like to do is think that by showing you everything that's going on, you have the opportunity to say, well, hang on a minute, move that back, bring this forward, this is now a priority. And within the strategy, I'm hoping out of that comes a diary, if you like, for the next 4 years, where we actually look at what is it you want done, when do you want it done, which reports do we need to take it to, which committees, in what form for approval, so that we're actually motoring forward with those decisions and choices.
Thank you very much. That's really reassuring and encouraging to hear about the forward work plan and the project risk log. Two things, I guess the community engagement survey that was recently done and reported on at the town forum will be quite good at informing us with strategy and so on going forward. So that's
sorry, Councillor, I'll jump in to answer that question if that's all right. So as Louise has alluded to, but to give all councillors the heads up, early next week we'll be sent a briefing paper about the away day with a reading list that comes with it. And some of the documents within that reading list we've referred to in this meeting tonight, and one of those will be the results of the stakeholder survey. So there's yes, the resident survey and the stakeholder group survey results will be part of the information that's been shared with councillors ahead of the meeting.
That's great. Thank you so much for that. And the second point is something which came up last year and has come up several times in several different places, not just at the Crouch, but it's this issue of public liability insurance. And I think at some point it would be good in this process to look at the fundamentals of how we govern and manage our green spaces, or the spaces which Seaford Town Council owns, in terms of third parties and what they can and can't do on the land, and what permissions they need and don't need, and what the tenures are and so on. Because theoretically, just taking a wild example here, if I wanted to go and set up some swings on the salts, and maybe I don't need anything to do that, and then someone goes and uses it and falls off and breaks their arm or whatever. It's a bit of a silly analogy perhaps, but you can see what I'm getting at there. So I think that would be good, not just to address the sort of physical things that are happening, but some of the fundamentals that underpin all this stuff as well. Really welcome that.
100%.
A lot of work to be done, thank you. Moving on, possibly for you again, Louise, stakeholder group meetings.
Yeah, so we are setting up 2 stakeholder group meetings, the Crouch and the Salts. Invites are sort of going out as we speak. We'll probably hold those meetings in the View, and all of the community groups involved in those areas will be invited, as well as any councillors who want to come. And from that we'll look at working out the niggles and where we're going, what we want to achieve, and I'm hoping that will also feed into the strategy, looking at the use of our green spaces and our geographic areas like the Crouch and the Salts, because I think they have an energy of their own, and we might want to work with that, but also think about the spaces that we have within those that aren't used, and what we might want to do with those and develop them. And we get lots of requests in, I've only been here a month, but I've already seen them, about can we, and so having a strategy again supports us in making those positive statements about yes, let's look at, and no, that doesn't really fit in with our strategy. So those 2 are being set up. If we need others, we can set them up. And the agenda will be a very open agenda to start with, so we work out what it is we need to talk about and look at.
Any further comments from councillors? Okay. Well, I think I'll draw this part of the agenda to a close. If any members of the public would like to make an exit. Ah, right, okay, sorry. So just to finish off the agenda minute purposes, yes, we have noted the comments, the contents of the report, and we have discussed and will have ongoing discussions about the draft mission statement.
So we just need to have someone vote that through, that's right. So someone to propose the 2 motions.
Right. Can I have a proposal for the 2 motions, please? Councillor Meek? And a seconder, Councillor Hollingworth. Thank you.
And then show of hands for that.
Show of hands.
Great.
Thank you.
So thank you, Sharon. Let's just make sure all the 2 business is done. So on the film we did it, that's all good.
Thank you very much. Okay. With members of the public, if they wish to leave now, shall we have a short break and say thank you very much for your representations. Thank you very much. So we've got everybody we need, and everybody who wants to leave has left. Right, okay, so welcome back to the second half, everyone. So this is report 1323 about the financial report, and this is going to be talked to by Adam Chugg in the absence of Karen Singleton, who is due to leave us at the end of this month.
That's right, Karen's retiring on the 30th of June. There's actually one small typographical error in this report, but I can't really tell her off about it because she's retiring in a week, so never mind. But it's at the top of page 15, the very, very top, second page of page 15. The filming income budget's been misdescribed here. The budget's actually £20,000, not £15,000. So that is a small typography. The good news is that that little mistake makes no difference at all to what the report says in terms of all the differences, all the variances, and the better than budget position that we have. So as Karen has described it in her report, income is stronger than anticipated for the reasons set here, and there are some significant additional bits of income that are described within the report. As you say, income from memorials, extra recharges, some trees for Seaford income because there was a lot going on with them, especially around Jubilee, additional sports pitch income on top of what we expected, additional beach hut income, say it was very strong last year, an additional beach hut sale, additional beach hut sale that was greater than the amount we budgeted for, and then also an additional Lewes District Council SIL grant was applied for successfully. So lots of additional income, and the overall income position is also healthy because in that we also now have been receiving the community infrastructure levy from Newlands Estate. And again, just to remind councillors, as has been said to you, we will be bringing a report to full council over the summer for councillors to consider some priorities for how that SIL money can be used going forward. Then she goes on to talk about expenditure. We are over budget in terms of increased maintenance costs and memorial costs, and also additional professional fees over things like the Gabion Wall failing in the storm. But overall, the net position is much, much better than budget between income and expenditure. So that's the sort of headlines in the summary part of the report, and then Karen goes on through to set out describe, the variances within the report, cost centre by cost centre, that mirrors your appendix, which is actually the income and expenditure report for this committee for the year. I'll just actually, if you turn to page 20, I'll just do a little bit of guiding about what you've actually got, if that's okay. So when you get these reports, look top left and you see month number 12, so you know what you're looking at. So that month 12, that describes a financial year, not a calendar one. So this is the 12th month performance of the financial year 22-23. So when the next one you'll get will be 23-24 month 1. You see what I mean? And then you go month 2, etc., etc. So that's the report you're looking at. And then as you can see, our accounts are described first of all by overall division. So this is the Community Services Committee. So this is the Community Services report. Councils and other committees get reports from them. There's a Golf and the View division report. There's an Financial General Purposes division report, etc. But you look at Community Services because this is your committee, and then each cost centre is done in turn. Each individual cost. So there's the first individual cost centre is 105, the Salts Recreation Ground. All of the income, all of the expenditure, and then as you see the columns are the year-to-date income or expenditure compared to the budget with variances, and then in the narrative of the report, significant variances will be explained. So that's how, because within how the council works is that the management of the budgets is done by committees. Each committee is managing its own budget, and that's why these reports are brought to you. So that's what you've got in front of you. So you can see for Salts Recreation Ground, the total income is 46,000 against the budget of 38,000, so we're up by nearly 8,000. So that gives you just one example. But you can see all of the detail is there. Salts Recreation Ground is the first cost centre, then it goes on to Crouch, 106, Montana Fields, 107, halfway down page 21, etc. And the whole report goes through cost centre by cost centre. So it's done in that order, rather than, if you like, income or expenditure headings order. It's done cost centre by cost centre, all the income, all the expenditure, overall position compared to budget. And then eventually, once you've done every single cost centre, you get down to the bottom on page 27, which is, there's another line drawn. So after planning and highways, which is the last cost centre relevant to this committee, you have a line drawn, and then you have the total positions shown at the very bottom of the report on page 27. It's those totals that Karen's referring to in her summary report, but then she describes significant individual variances in cost centres within the narrative of this report. So hopefully give you the information that you need. Thank you for listening patiently. Happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Any questions, comments? Councillor Warren.
Just a question about the tennis courts.
Yes.
Has the temperature, well I presume, have there been any days that we can't use them because it's exceeded 21 degrees?
So, do you mind me asking you that question?
Not as of yet, no.
No.
So
I mean, is that going to be year on, you know, is that going to happen every year, or is it just the bedding in period?
it's just, yeah, we were informed that it's just the bedding in period. So for 2 years, this is the second summer.
Next year there'll be no problem.
Yes.
Yeah, lovely, thank you.
Councillor Lee.
Thank you. I've asked this before, and I just wonder if there's any update on it. Gigan Wall, when it was put in, it failed after about 2 months. The first storm we got, it failed completely. And there was some discussion about liability of the people who put it in. It's not our fault that it failed. The designer designed it, an engineer designed it, it failed. It's a huge investment, and you know, within, as one of the residents said, it's not fit for purpose. What happened with that? I know officers were discussing with various contractors.
An update report is coming to full council. We think it will be the July full council meeting.
Wonderful.
Yeah, Councillor Lister?
Yeah, two things. First of all, I just have a small query about the 2.16 on the 1075 Secret Christmas Magic. It says here that income was very low due to difficulty securing sponsors. Does that mean for the last year's event or for this year? Because I noticed this year's is sort of 20 a quarter, sort of up to the spend that you're thinking you're going to get. And is there something different that's going to occur this year, perhaps to do with our mission statement?
Let's do a bit each, really. So I'll do the first half of the question, which was yes, last year. Okay? And then Louise, what
I want to go that short. We are looking at Christmas Magic with two lenses, one with the new mission statement and the other with youth, which is the Mayor's theme. And we have just recruited a new events person who's highly experienced, comes from London. We're very excited, and sponsorship is going to be something that falls in her remit. What we want to see is Christmas Magic costs us nothing. We put our time in and our name in, and that's the aim, and then the sponsorship covers the rest. The thing that within that costs us the most money is the lantern building. And it's difficult to find sponsors for that. So we're looking creatively at how we might do that, having lanterns, say, some printed with their names on, that sort of thing. But that's the big area. But it's highly interactive, and we get a lot of residents joining in on that. So it's something we want to continue doing. So that's a real focus. And even if we get sponsorship for that, we should look a lot better on our budgets.
Sounds positive, and I like the ambition.
Yeah.
That's one. I mean, so to take it back in terms of the as you know, and will be described in the town clerk report for you for full council next week. We have made structural changes in the council. We have a number of new staff here, which is very exciting. A number of people in new roles as well, which is also exciting. And that's deliberate to strengthen our ability to do some key things, and Louis just gave one very important example there, is the sponsorship was struggled partly because of was partly a resourcing issue within the council, and we've addressed that.
Yeah, brilliant, and that's really good to hear.
Thanks, Dominic.
Thank you, Chair. Following on what Councillor Bliss has said, in a lot of ways, well, and yourselves actually, I suppose, if a couple of years ago, was it 3 years ago, we had a bad weather day, didn't we? Sometimes I think sometimes that's the issue.
It was a windy day.
Where
21.
I think sometimes Plan B is not always a nice option for some of the people concerned, the organisers. Then of course the sponsors, the people involved with it, think, oh, next year I think we're back away now. But it's a bit too, it's a bit too risky to spend extra amount of money. That's one thing. I don't know the lantern people. I don't know if you've approached the right people who do their lantern end of the midwinter festival. I don't know if you've. I don't know if you've. What's it called? Burning on the World Charity. I mean, you are trying to get there. I don't know if you approach them how they do all theirs. I know they do certain things in the schools, but I think they bring the down effect to do, don't they? Then they don't actually make them on the day. You may want to check who. What I'm sure you already have anyway. So you've already got the answers, haven't you?
Yeah, if I can answer that. So yes, we have worked with Skip for a number of years. And they've been to Burning of the Clocks and have spoken to the organisers, and they have got some ideas that they want to share with us about some changes that we could perhaps look at and some interaction with various groups within the town. So those are some of the options that are coming forward when they get to meet us to discuss that.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much.
And just to finish, I've got one comment and one question. So the comment is under section 3, and just to say congratulations to officers and Karen Singleton in particular. It is very heartening to come back to see such healthy finances. I know that these are some windfalls, but it is very, very nice to be in such a good positive position with options that we can do to actually positively benefit our community, and I think it's very heartening, and we're delighted to be in this position to have some options where we can actually help our residents and make this place an even better place to live. So thank you very much for your hard work, all of you, because I think that's important to note.
And just to say briefly, the financial strengthening has been a real team effort with the councillors and officers. Working together, councillors took some important decisions at budget setting each year and a direction of travel that made sure the finances would become strengthened over time, and then it's been delivered effectively, so it was a real team effort between people to be in this stronger place, thankfully.
And I've just got a technical issue asking about 2.16 about the Christmas lights, because I know they're quite expensive. And what's the situation with the Christmas lights now that I don't understand how they're out of contract and the costs are lower? Can we just clarify that? It's a small item.
So they are under contract. Being new to post, I would need to reread through the contract details. We do own our Christmas lights, we don't hire. So they have been replaced when we've needed to, they've been repaired as well. And the scheme, some parts are new and some parts are older. So it may be something that we wish to look at again, and the costings of that, and where we go forward with it.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Bristow.
Yeah, can I echo or second what Councillor Wimmer says about the fantastic position and all the hard work, because I think that's really good, and that came through on the training. Having attended the climate change subcommittee meetings for the last 2 before I became councillor, and now I'm going to chair that going forward, I'm just wondering if perhaps the town clerk can explain a little bit about that subcommittee and just make everyone aware that that exists and that it's kind of a subsidiary of this, and how financially they might become related in the future. I'm guessing it might be something which, you know, if there are projects we want to do from that, it might need to come to budget in January time and so on. But if you could explain a bit, and because I know there was some talk about maybe getting some staff or officer time for those projects as well.
Yes. So. Well, again, okay, happy to clarify. Thank you. It's a absolutely fair question. I'll try and be reasonably brief, Chair, because there's quite a lot to say on that. But in terms, so in no particular order, again, the restructuring of the staffing team is now enabling more resources for climate change subcommittee work as well as other work as well. So, for example, taking forward the work around South Urban, looking at water and electricity supplies for that, and also taking forward the car park charger work, that can now be taken on within the officer team because we have the resources now to take that forward. So that's the resourcing answer. In terms of the sort of scheme of things answer, yes, it's a very important thing for everybody to understand that the climate change subcommittee was set up as a subcommittee of this committee. There was some sound, you know, that was the council's decision, whatever the pros and cons of it are, but there is some sound rationale to that in terms of, I think councillors were nervous about creating another whole budget when actually most climate change work is cross-council, so those budgets should actually be in those cost centres. So we're not saying the climate change budget is to one side, we're saying climate change work is cross-council, and each budget should have things within it that are needed for climate change action. The role of the climate change subcommittee is much more around sort of process and process leadership and making sure work is being taken forward and delivered rather than budget management.
Yeah.
However, at the same time, there may be specific spends that subcommittee wants to do, and you're right, they then come to this committee. So again, for example, the £15,000 professional costs for the work on South Kilbarn this year, or the external bit, obviously there's officer bits as well, the external bit, the subcommittee put that into the community services budget, community services put it in their budget, and it's in the council budget. So it is like an extra step, but anything additional cost-wise the Climate Change Committee wishes to recommend for itself, that would then come to this committee to take forward. Hope that helps.
Yeah, it does. Okay. Any further questions or comments before I bring the meeting to a close? Thank you very much for your questions and attendance. Thank you.
Thank you,
A very, very good first meeting. So can I just say that for minutes processes, we have noted the contents of the report. Can I have a proposer, please? Councillor Walraven, thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Duba.
And then we will vote.
Can I have a vote, please?
Yeah.
Passed unanimously. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
It's 8:34. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.